And then suddenly, as he emerged out of his house and began to take the long walk towards the pier, once again, like a slow cloud cover beginning to unravel itself and expose the sunshine, it occurred to him again as he thought pensively, as very pensively, he was pensive in his reflection, that everything was transient. Everything around him, people talking to him, his energy inside of his being was all transient. And somehow it put his mind at ease as he contemplated this. The actual truth of the matter was that it is transient, and that everything he saw around him was an illusion. Yet something deep inside of him still bothered him as he continued to contemplate and do that random walk until the probabilistic conclusion was reached, where one had to ask themselves, how was it exactly that he knew, and who was it that knew that he was simply an illusion, and that everything that he was experiencing at that moment and all of the other experiencers around him were just transient, passing illusions, like a ripple, like a gushing water flowing past. How was he able to know this and understand this and be aware of this? For to him to be aware of it, did he not therefore have to exist as time passed, as he observed time passing? Did it not necessitate his existence in the very fact that he was aware that everything was transient around him? Did it make him more confused than he was in the first place? How could he have this notion and this emotion of awareness that everything was transient and illusory if he himself was part of this illusion? Which leads us down the path of paradox. Unless one could consider why could the illusory ego itself not understand that it was an illusion? If he knew that his body was simply and brain, a material brain, was simply a vessel, a finite vessel capturing energy within it to create an illusion of self, if he suddenly realized and was put at peace with the understanding that all the pain, all the suffering was a mere illusion that he was being forced to experience, then what would happen to the energy is being after it was no longer trapped within his body? And if he was understanding this, was that not in itself inherently an illusion also? Because it was he, the illusion, that was understanding it. In essence, was everything that he could potentially be aware of and understand an illusion, and part of the illusion. And therefore, everything that he experienced or theorized must be an illusion itself. So why was he getting this semblance of peace and closure to all of his troubles and his anxieties when he at once remembered that all of this is transient, that all of this on this temporal plane was only an illusory experience of the overall self, of the overall existence. Is that just the end product of existence itself trying to experience itself as a non-probabilistic tipping point? Was it being encapsulated inside of the experiencer? Was it being encapsulated inside of the experiencer randomly? Or was there a true purpose to them being encapsulated there? Not necessarily in this lifetime or the next lifetime, but was there a purpose of the existent energy being encapsulated in there? No. The question again is, why did it bring him peace of mind to remember that the people who stood before him, chattering and nattering along, were mere transient? His experience of this was mere transient. It was merely transient. Did any of them realize that it was transient? Probably not. So what gave him peace of mind to understand that this was transient? And was that peace of mind the whole purpose of that remembrance? To quiet the mind and to have peace within the mind. Because was having peace within the mind the closest approximation that he could have with existence? Was quieting the mind was understanding that this was all transient, a practice in quieting the mind? Think of as many ways as you can to consciously speak and alliterate the fact that this is all transient. Think about the ways that you can think about slogans or mottos that you could say, like, this is transient. All I am here right now is energy encapsulated and trapped within this body. It's a passing body. The body is infinite, just like the energy within it. There is only the illusion that it is not infinite. There is only the illusion that I must take care of and protect this body, for it is mine. This notion is transient. This notion itself is transient. This notion of transience is transient in itself. Only I am cracking the code to obliterate anything anything that makes me feel non-transient, anything that attempts to force me back inside of this entrapment, Anything that attempts to force me into this body when I know that all energy flows through it, without it, inside of it, outside of it. For instance, was he simply playing with himself, playing with his own mind, attempting to contemplate that he didn't exist? Because how could he understand that he didn't exist? How is that possible? Must he therefore not exist? How could he therefore not exist if he was the one contemplating his non-existence? In other words, was it possible for him to contemplate was it possible for his eye center to contemplate his own non-existence? Yes, it was possible. It's possible to play that mind game that I don't exist. But is it actually true that I don't exist? Because who is posing this question if they don't exist? So who or what is posing this question? Who is posing this question? Who is making this statement that they don't exist if they really don't exist? Like, how could I not exist? How could I exist separately from everything else that exists? How could my body and brain be a discrete existence apart and isolated from everything else that exists? Unless my body, my brain, and my being came from an alternate universe or an alternate dimension. Unless my existence came from somewhere that was not within this universe. But I require this universe to exist. I wouldn't be possible of existing unless I had all of the elements in place to hold this body, which holds these thoughts and contemplations. So can we not then say that the rule, the principle involved, the statute is actually, in fact, that there is no way that I could not exist apart from all of existence. And even though there's an illusion of my separateness to this existence, both spatial and psychological, there's no way of actually separating the two unless our existence here as a conscious organism was thrown into here as an ingredient from some other alternate universe. So what are all of the proofs that can be claimed with respect to me as being impossible to be separated from all of existence, and therefore making any notion of my separateness an illusion, an inherently an illusion, illusory? What can we use as evidence to back that up, to make those proofs? Versus the fact that my thoughts and my feeling of separateness and my feeling of me as being true and real, as truly being separate and apart from all of existence, all of the perceived existence out and about and around me. Well, what can prove that that could be the case? It would definitely have to be that my being was injected into this existence from an alternate or totally different universe.